Hey y'all, this is Ashley from the Uncommon People podcast, and I mentioned on our most recent episode about our 2020 goals that I had made a vision board, so I'm going to show that to y'all today. I felt it's a little silly even making a video over this because this is not that impressive, but if you've never done it before, it is a good starting place. This is the first year I've ever done this, and I have a couple different opinions about vision boards, and I think there's kind of two different camps on vision boards, more along this is a visual representation of the goals and dreams that I have for the year, and then more like the manifestation side of things, where here's things that look incredibly unattainable, but I believe if I focus on them every day and put a lot of attention on them, then they will come to pass this year. And so I don't have goals on here that are incredibly unattainable. Like, I didn't put a brand new vehicle on it. I mean, I didn't put a vehicle at all on it, but I didn't put a brand new vehicle on it. I didn't put like I know we don't have money to go to Hawaii this year. So I had a struggle because I don't really care as much about that kind of stuff too. It's like, I would rather meet my goal of reading 60 books for the year than go to Hawaii. And maybe that's just a personality thing. I'm sure some of y'all are like, what? Give me the trip to Hawaii. But so it's just to say, it is important that this vision board, if you should make one, reflects really what you want, what you're going for, and that you should pray about it and decide whether it should be something that you're really trying to manifest these certain things in your life, or if you feel like these are goals that God has for your life for the year that you want to pursue, and this is a helpful visual representation of that. So I probably won't do them in the same order as the podcast, but we will link that down below if you want to hear. Actually, Aaron was on the podcast too, so if you want to hear his goals, they are there. And I didn't talk about this in the podcast, but I had a couple words for the year. You can see them across the top there. So I'll talk about those at the end. But one of the goals for me, which this one affects Aaron obviously, was to do 2 dates a month. So one of them being at home, just something fun to do at home together, and then a date out where we have a babysitter. You know, it's babysitter minimum is $40 a time we go out. So then you count dinner on top of that, and if you do anything else, it gets pricey pretty fast. So anyway, we are both quality time people, so I wanted to put that on this year and hope that, we had some success making that happen. Here's this says 5 a.m. That's my goal, to wake at 5 a.m. daily. And I really enjoy having that extra time in the morning without my kids awake, because silence is golden, they say. And then to paint and redecorate, here's a little picture. It just says time to redecorate. I've repainted a little bit of our house, but I really would love to repaint the rest of it by the end of this year. That just takes a long time, but I think I mentioned it in the podcast, like my dad says, you let someone else paint your house and you realize, wow, I'm not as bad at painting as I thought I was, and I'm a lot cheaper. So I have a little picture here of a mom retreats. Basically, I want to take twice a year in opposing quarters. So like the first quarter and the third quarter, take a little weekend away where my mom has my kids all day on a Friday and my husband has them all day on a Saturday, and I come back Saturday evening. And so I'm gone one night. And then the second and third quarter, I intend to take a full Saturday off where just Aaron has our kids all day. So thankfully, he's really good about supporting me having some time away, to whether it's work or one of these, I'll probably do like fasting, so more of a spiritual focus. And they're all kind of have a more spiritual focus for me. But I can't lie and say like I might not get a pedicure during one of them or something like that. So this one was 10,000 steps daily. And it just has a little indicator of activity, like low active, and then it has the number of steps that would be considered low active, somewhat active, active, and highly active. And I just thought that was an interesting little picture to indicate getting 10,000 steps 5 times a week this year. And that's not super difficult for me on the days that I make it to the Y with my kids, which is usually several days a week, because I enjoy that hour or 40 minutes or so where they're in their little daycare program and I get to walk, and I usually listen to a book or read a book or do both at the same time, depending on what kind of book it is. Follow us on Goodreads. I'm reading Emma by Jane Austen right now. Actually, I'm listening to it and reading it on the Kindle at the same time while I'm walking, because I can't focus on it in either singular form. So I managed to do it if I'm listening to it and reading it. And then here's a little picture that says, reading can seriously damage your ignorance. My reading goal for this year is 60 books. And I have a couple of like subcategories, like I want to read a whole series this year. I want to read something by Jane Austen. I want to read something by Tozer, by C.H. Spurgeon, just some different things like that that I've never done before. And so I may share that list at a later time, but I do have kind of more specific broken down goals that have to do with reading. And then I have this little picture here, and it says, hospitality is not about inviting people into our perfect homes. It's all about inviting people into our imperfect hearts. So I thought that was kind of sweet. But I'm hoping to maintain a hospitality calendar this year, which will involve having someone over to our home once a month, taking someone a meal once a month, sending a card once a week. I have a friend that I like to help her with her kids every other week, and seeing my grandma, just some things like that. But if I don't plan that stuff, most of the time, some of it happens, but if I'm not careful, a few months will, I'm not naturally a hospitable person as far as inviting people into our home. So months will go by and we will have had no one over. And I am gonna be honest, that's fine for me and my personality type, although I don't think that's what God calls us to do, even if it is part of my personality type. But my husband does enjoy having people over, and he's really more, I'm not an introvert necessarily, but he's more extroverted than I am. And then I have on here that I want to do 2 media fasts this year, and I just had that little unplug. I thought that was cool. And then this little quote that says, life is what happens when you put your phone down. So one of my goals is to just leave my phone out of sight and out of mind as much as possible this year, but also to do a couple media fasts. One that's basically no social media, which I'm doing in January here, and then with the exception of what I have to use it for, church and work stuff like that, but no just mindless scrolling and things, you know, wasting away all my time on YouTube and stuff like that. And then I'd like to do one later in the year that was all media, social media. I think the one we did last year in 2019 was basically everything but podcasts and books. So we, didn't watch any shows or anything like that. So I really, really enjoyed that. It was nice to be sure we were communicating. Just as a family, we were really good about spending time together when there's not the distraction of different kinds of media. And then I have this little icon here, the ESV, English Standard Version Bible, puts out a podcast where they it's like 2 or 3 chapters in the Old Testament and 1 or 2 chapters in the New Testament. It ends up being about 12 to 16, 15 minutes a day as a podcast where you can listen, and by the end of it, you will have listened to the whole Bible. So that was something I thought would be fun to do, and I'm aiming to do it with Jack in the car with me as we go places throughout the day. And so he's even gotten into the habit already of being like, Mom, turn on our Bible time. So, I mean, it's kind of cute. That he's excited, and of course he doesn't catch very much of it, but every once in a while he'll be like, oh, they said such and such word, like something that he recognizes. So that's cute. He is actually listening. And then the last one that I have on here is this little reminder, hopefully y'all can see that, to create something weekly, whether it's something written, whether it's a podcast episode, or whether it's something on YouTube, just really anything to put out there, because I really feel like I'm not a huge fan of personal social media. Like, I don't really want to share a ton of information about my family and our daily life, because I do like some privacy. But I think that we, especially as Christians, should not be afraid to use the internet as a means to encourage other people and give a different perspective on what it means to live for God, and just different ways, practical tools, and just a creative outlet too, because I think it's important for us to express ourselves in the ways that God's working in our lives for other people too. I don't always think that what God is working on in us is just for us to, keep for ourselves, but maybe important for you to be sharing with someone else. So if that was for you, receive that today. Anyways, it says 2020 there across the top. And these are kind of the couple words that I have for this year. No thanks is one of the phrases that I kind of have for this year. And I'm not specifically applying that to being asked to do something, but being put in a situation where I'm offered something that I don't want in my life. Whether it's a conversation about someone else I don't want in my life, whether it's being offered food I don't want in my life, whether it's some activity that I don't think is going to be enriching and it's a waste of my time. This isn't necessarily centered around other people and what other people are doing, but a lot of the examples that have come to my mind so far have involved that. So we'll see kind of where that goes as the year has progressed. And then the other word over here, warm, if you know me in real life, it's not that I'm a cold person, but like I am friendly and stuff like that. But I don't think warm would be like one of the first words that's used to describe me necessarily. But this word goes along a lot with my goal for hospitality for this year, and just reaching out to other people, offering what I can to other people, be investing in other people's lives, which thankfully, none of these are our ministry goals for the year. We get to do a lot of that, pouring into other people's lives through our ministry work, which we're really thankful to get to do. So warm could be applied in a lot of different ways. I want to apply that in my friendships with my family and my children, and just really being thoughtful and considerate of other people. And we'll see kind of how else that word plays out in 2020. There's no telling. So I hope this was helpful for you today. This is just a crooked cut piece of poster board, a few things printed off the internet and tape, and 3 markers. So you may be a lot more creative and be able to do something with this that would just really inspire you. I leave this taped up next to my prayer area that I sit in every morning, so I do see it every day and it's on my mind. And so it's not one of those write your goals in your notebook, put it in your nightstand, and it's out of sight, out of mind type thing. It's there before you and before your eyes, and it's helpful to keep on your mind what your goals are for the year. So you could do something as okay as this. This is like middle of the ground for me on what's creative and pretty, or you could really go all out and get your washi tape and your markers and all that. If you're artistic, or you can do something more basic than this, just some kind of visible representation of what your goals are that you see often that will set you up for better success in 2020. So if you enjoyed this video, you can give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe to this brand new channel that we've started to kind of come alongside our podcast. And like I said, I'll link the podcast below that corresponds with this video. And I hope you guys enjoyed what we had to share today. And we'll see you next time, or you'll hear from us next time. Have a good one.